You do not have a trust problem, okay? You've got a data problem. And before you disagree with me on this, I want you just to stay with me for a second because the reason trust feels impossible right now, the reason you keep your guard up even with people who've given you no reason to, the reason you hedge your bets in relationships and in God and in your own decisions and in the calling that keeps asking you to move, it's not because you are broken or damaged or constitutionally unable to trust. It's because your brain is doing exactly what it was designed to do with the data it's been given. And the data says the last time you trusted fully, it cost you something. And maybe it was something small, maybe something that rearranged your whole life, but the record is there. The brain filed it, and the brain, and its extraordinary commitment to keeping you safe, okay, took that data point and built a policy around it. And the policy says trust less, stay guarded, keep the back exit visible, do not go all in because all in is where the cost lives. And yeah, that policy has been protecting you, but it's also been costing you everything it is designed to protect you from losing. Because the life you want, the relationship that's completely real, the business that's built on genuine connection, the faith that is not just an intellectual agreement, but an actually lived trust in a God who moves. That life requires the thing the policy's been blocking. And that's what I want to talk about. I would say today, that's what I want to talk about, how to update the policy without pretending the data that built it was not a real experience, you guys. And I'm saying today because it's like, I'm saying it sarcastically, you guys. Welcome to the Listen Bitch podcast. Um, Holy shit, it's already like 10:15 p.m. I know I'm super late and I think I just need to be honest with you guys. For Listen Bitch, my time has shifted a little bit. Schedules have shifted. Sports is in full season. Life is happening. Like my car broke down today after we just got it fixed. So shit's going down and I'm in it. I am in it. And the devil's working on me today. And I'm like, I have every excuse not to sit down and record. And I'm like, that's not fair because you bitches have stuck with me and I'm serious about this and I want to show up for you because it matters to me. So I'm still here. I think for the rest of this week, my schedule is probably going to be a little late. So hopefully that can work into whatever routine we had, considering I usually post in the mornings. But I just want to say thank you for your patience with me, you guys. Thank you for the grace. Thank you for giving me a chance to get this all figured out and find some footing again. Um, yeah, that's all, you guys. Listen, bitch podcast, let's go. This is Rebellion season, episode 32. This is really this show is for the person who's been hurt enough times that trust now feels like a choice between being naive and being alone. That person, who has watched people they believe in truly reveal themselves to be something different, who the person who has trusted God with something that mattered and watched the outcome be nothing like what they prayed for. This show is for the person who trusted themselves and made a decision that costs more than you can afford. And speaking to the person who has quietly, without announcing it, started building a life that requires trusting as little as possible. You are my people. I get this. I speak from wholehearted trust issues. Um, our brain's keeping us safe. And honestly, that life works. It's functional. We're functioning. We're safe, but also we are slowly suffocating. And I know you know it. That's why you're here. And if you guys are new here tonight, I know I get some new traction from different social media posts. I'm Brandon Lynette, okay? Um, Voice authority coach, podcast coach. Your mess is your message. The trust wounds in my story are pretty fucking specific, and a lot of you know the history of that. They are real. And I can bring a little bit of that here today, but I don't want to just share my story ever for like sympathy. I don't do it for any other reason other than to help you guys see that there is something outside of the story we tell ourselves. And I want us to do something with the version of this story, okay? Where we're not putting on any fake bullshit performance, okay? We're not gonna pretend for force forgiveness or force optimism or any other of the things that like well-meaning people really suggest when the real life answer, you guys, if you cut through the bullshit, it's harder and it's definitely more specific than that. Okay. As always, y'all know I'm rocking with my my super patch today. I want to talk about peace. I have peace on as well because trust is a nervous system conversation before it's anything else. I've been very intentional the past few years about my body and my health, and it's taken me over a year to really work on my nervous system. And I went through a lot of stages of thinking I really, just needed that thing that would make me feel different, right? So I'm looking for the drugs and the reactions and whatever natural high I could get, right? I even tried ketamine, you guys, to get outside of myself at some point. Not for me. But I've tried all these things, and what I always come back to is the zero ingredient thing that kept me stable. So I've been using these patches. Okay, zero ingredient. Definitely the creator is anti-pharma. I adore him. I just love watching him speak. The whole company just is incredible and everybody I work with is just amazing. But I fall back on these every single time outside of the core shot of oil that I take. I think I owe a lot of credit to these little patches. Okay. You guys know this. Like the body that's been betrayed, it keeps the score. Like meaning this, my body's carrying a record of everything physically. And our bodies do this in hypervigilance, right? Like it scans for the threat. And now we think we're always under attack because the world's just fucking upside down. It's the inability to fully just exhale in the presence of other people. My issue, even just being able to exhale doing interviews or, like today, had I not had my peace and Zen patch, I probably would freak out because I just got my car out of the shop. I'm driving it. I'm doing, the speed limit and suddenly it's like going to fall apart on me and I'm terrified and I have to be somewhere. So I have to get to this destination. Then I have to get back. Then my girls need practice. I would have lost my shit. Really. Instead, I'm talking my husband off the ledge, right? Like I'm like, okay, it's good. It's fine, right? There's a reason for everything. I'm in the season of whatever that reason is. I'm okay. So we're here, but I guarantee these patches kept me grounded. So the peace patches really, it's what has helped my nervous system when I needed to be reminded that safety exists, drug free, no ingredients, vibrotactile technology, just telling your brain through your skin that you can settle down. You're not in danger. There's not a bear. A tiger's not attacking you. You're totally fine. I just want you guys to understand that signal alone matters more than a lot of people realize. So I do have links in the show notes. You guys, I answer all my own messages. All right. I don't have an autoresponder. I don't have bullshit AI doing this stuff. So please, if you have any questions, Facebook, I check my spam all the time. I'm always there. Or if you just want to text me at 269-340-2428 and you could just say, what patches do I need? Let's talk about it. Okay. Um, anyway, so back to the show. I trauma dumped on you guys. I haven't done that for a while, but here we are. You guys, trust is not a feeling. I'm learning that it is really just a practice. And this is the brain reframe that kind of changes everything because a lot of people are waiting to feel trust before they act trust. Like you're waiting for the internal sense of safety and certainty and confidence in another person or situation or even God before you make a move that requires trust. And that feeling, like the warm, certain, I know this is this safe feeling, it really almost never comes. It comes after. It comes as a result of the practice. And I know, you guys, I know I'm always like, practice, flex the muscle, let's keep building this up. That's fucking life. And that's what we wanted to be here for. So I'm going to continue to be here 4 days a week to help you focus on this growth and practicing. Okay. So if you are waiting for the feeling before the practice, you're going to be waiting indefinitely because the brain that has been burned does not produce the feeling of trust spontaneously. It produces caution, and caution left to itself produces more caution until like caution's your whole fucking life. And then you die of cortisol poisoning. Okay. You guys have to I want you to trust something. I'm going to ask you to trust here. I want you to trust the actual neurological experience of this, okay? It's produced primarily by two chemicals, right? You've got your oxytocin, which we've talked about oxytocin and cortisol in balance. And oxytocin, we talked about a while back, I think. Um, it's that bonding and trust chemical, and it's produced through positive social connection, through physical safety, through the experience of being seen and not harmed, like fully showing up as yourself and the bear doesn't come out from the corner. And then, cortisol is the stress hormones. And what it's going to do is it's going to rise when the brain perceives the threat. And when the brain has learned through the repeated experiences that closeness equals threat, the cortisol rises preemptively before any actual threat has appeared. Just the proximity, just the vulnerability, just the opening of the door and the alarm sounds. And it's not because anything is wrong. It's because the last time the door was open, something did go wrong, and your brain just remembered that. And this is not trauma in the dramatic sense necessarily, okay? It's just learning. It's just learning. The brain is extraordinary at learning. The problem is is that it learns from the past and then it applies the lesson to the present without always checking on whether the present is actually the same situation as the past. It can't separate that, okay? It doesn't know time. So you're not in the same room as the person that hurts you, but your nervous system is running the same threat response as if you were. And until you give your brain the new data through new experience, through practice of trust and safer context, through the repeated evidence that vulnerability is survivable, it's going to keep running that old protocol. Okay. But the good news, I mean, this is genuinely great fucking news if you're a person who's been sitting in distrust for a long time, is that the brain changes. That neuroplasticity. Okay. Let's say it together, class. Neuroplasticity. Every experience of trust that does not result in the feared outcome, boom, new data point. New data point. Every time you open the door and the world does not end, your brain files that. And over time, like it's not instant and it's definitely not linear, okay? But over time, the new file starts to compete with the old one. So the cortisol starts to drop, the oxytocin starts to rise, and the default response begins to shift. And it's not because you decided to trust, it's because you practiced it until the brain built the infrastructure for it, okay? I know, bitch. You're like, oh shit. So I'm not just fucked up. No, you're just a person whose brain learned a lesson from real experience and is applying it faithfully. Your brain loves you, wants to keep you safe. And the work is to teach the new lesson. And that teaching happens through action, not your fucking intentions. Like you're not going to think your way out of this. Okay. And this is the trap that's very sneaky here. And probably one of the most common ones that keeps people stuck the longest. Withholding trust is a form of control. I know it feels like protection. It looks like we're just being so wise. And it sounds like healthy boundaries and self preservation. And you're definitely not being naive. But underneath the protection, there is really something else running. And it is that very specific power of being the one who has not gone all in. Okay. And do I sound like I know what I'm talking about, bitch? Because yes. Is this me? Am I she? Have I done this? Uh, that's it. You're safe from being the one that goes all in. You're going to be the one who can say, I told you so when shit hits the fan. You get to be the one who kept enough distance that the fall, if it comes, it's not going to hurt you. It's not going to be far. There is a comfort in the withholding. The person who never fully trusts never fully loses. And that math, okay, because there is a specific risk management equation that you do, whether you think you do or not. That math makes complete logical sense if your primary goal is to not get hurt. Bitches, we've been hurt. We're tired of being hurt. I get that. And so we like built this whole model to not be hurt. But the problem is that not getting hurt is not the same as actually living. It is the same problem as all walls boundary situation we talked about in an earlier episode. Technically protected, actually imprisoned. Okay? And listen, you have been in the analysis of this shit long enough. You know the relationships where you're withholding. You know the areas where you're hedging. You know the version of trust you've been offering, the 70% version, the I am open but not fully version, the I believe but let me keep one hand on the exit version. And you know that the 70% version is producing 70% results in the relationships, in your business, in your faith. Full life, you guys, it requires full trust, not blind trust, okay? And I want to talk about that difference. The fact that you've been managing the level of trust you offer as a way of managing your potential pain, that's an excuse. A very sophisticated, emotionally intelligent, completely understandable, but it's a fucking excuse. Just an excuse. And it's time to get the fuck over it, okay? Uh, who am I if I'm not just talking shit? But the food industry, pharmaceutical industry, media machine, social platforms, all these motherfuckers benefit from your distrust. A distrustful population does not build community, right? That's my thing. I can unplug from them, and this is a call out episode for moi because yeah, I could cut down the world, but can I trust other people to move forward in my message? Can I? I don't know. I'm pretty distrustful, and I'm not building an outer community. I'm safe on camera with you guys. Uh, Someone who can't trust can't organize. You don't create the kind of solidarity that threatens the structures that you know that need you isolated. Um, the system, they're pumping the news full of betrayal stores. They're using the algorithm to prioritize content that confirms the worst about people and institutions because outrage and distrust drive engagement. You guys, we're useful idiots. The systems have built a culture and systems, you know, the satanic, devil worshiping, pedophile, child eating freak cults that run everything. Yeah, they started this and they've built a culture where the default assumption about every person and every institution is that they're probably corrupt. I say it every day, probably lying, still saying it, probably going to let you down. And they're not entirely wrong, okay, about the institutions. And I'm going to continue to cover that completely. But there are good people out there. And the cultural distrust has spilled from the institutions into the personal, into the relationships, into our faith, into self trust, into the specific daily, is it safe to go all in kind of questions that the machine needs you to answer no to. The devil is the Lord of confusion. Okay. That's it. That's his shit. Stop answering no by default. That's someone else's answer, not yours anymore. Okay. Um, there was a time where, you know, I didn't trust God with the outcomes. And it wasn't a big dramatic life altering thing. I didn't make a decision to distrust. It was just a very quiet, you know, it happened in increments. I've just started doing more of the managing and less of the releasing. Um, it's about trust, and it's not control for its own sake. Control because trusting God with the thing that mattered most had produced an outcome I did not understand. And I quietly concluded through this process without really speaking it out is that I was going to be more careful about what I handed over all the time. And I'm talking about like the prayer you pray with everything you have, the thing you believed for, the outcome you trusted God for specifically. And when the outcome is not what you prayed for, and then the theology is saying God's ways are higher, his timing is different, and there's a plan, you trust that. And the nervous system says, I gave everything to that, and it did not go the way I needed it to go. Right? We trust all of that. You know, we say we prayed, and the bad thing still happened. Okay. Well, I'm human. And sometimes that bad thing really locked in with me. There was a version of Brandon that wasn't like, there's a lesson, there's a blessing. What can I learn? You know, what is my experience here? No matter how that goes, nervous system, what's it going to do? You know, its response, it's super quiet, right? Quieter than my relationship with Christ, quieter than my faith, but it's very persistent, more embodied. It suddenly just started running the policy without my awareness. So I got to be more careful, keep a little back. Do not go all in with God because all in with God does not guarantee the outcome you need. And the policy is understandable, right? We're fucking human. It is the most natural response in the world to genuine disappointment with God. When you're taught to believe that he always moves on your behalf, you know? It is also one of the most expensive things you can carry because faith that is held at arm's length, faith that is managed rather than lived. What I know to be true, what I've learned, faith that is believed intellectually but not trusted practically is not the faith that moves mountains. It's not the faith that stays safe, and that's the faith that stays safe. And staying safe was really, you guys, that's never been our assignment, okay? And the thing that kind of turned the light on for me wasn't a better argument, okay? It was a specific conversation with God in a specific moment of honesty where I stopped pretending I was fine with the outcome and I told him how I felt about it, okay? I joke about my next book being called Dear God, I Fucked Up because that's like how my prayers start with him. Um, and when I'm angry, I'm fucking pissed. Okay, so he knows me. He knows my heart. He knows how I talk, and it gets pretty racy, but I finally just said how I felt. There was anger. There's been moments of confusion, and the quiet conclusion I'd drawn that I'd been carrying without admitting, I laid it all out, all of it, like ugly, specific. I didn't have to paint a picture for anybody because it was just between me and him. And what came back, okay, not a cool lightning bolt. I didn't get a fucking burning bush, but in that way that I know that God speaks to me when I'm open to listening. It was never an explanation of the outcome. It was a question. It's a question. And he says, "Do you trust me or do you trust my answers?" Those are not the same thing. And I've been confusing them all my life. I've been trusting God conditionally as long as the answers were what I needed. And what he was asking for was something different, okay? All he's ever wanted was for me to trust in him and who he is, in his character, in his presence, in the outcome. I did not understand that. He didn't want me to trust the outcome, that the outcome would be that I wanted. I had to trust that he was in it regardless. And that little distinction, trust in the person versus trust in the outcome. That's the one thing that changes the faith. And it's the one that changes every other trust relationship too. You do not trust people because they will never disappoint you, because they are going to disappoint you. You trust people because you know their character well enough to believe that even when it is hard, they are for you. That is a completely different foundation. And it is one that can survive the outcomes that do not go the way you needed. Okay. I'm with you guys. Okay. I'm in this arena of trust. And especially, I just had someone I thought I could trust completely let me down. And it's even now, like through this week, going through the process of moving forward with what God wants me to do in spite of that, when inside I feel like just let down. Like, why was I brought to this? That's what this was. I'm not seeing the lesson as fast as I want to see the lesson. I'm not seeing the blessing. I'm not seeing the things. But I do know, like I know when people show you who they are, you can trust that. You really can, you know. But this issue, you guys, it's going to show up in the relationships where you are very present, but you know you're not completely there. This is going to be your responsibility, right? When you give access, but not the real version of you. You give people access, but just enough. This comes up where you've been in it long enough to call it close, but honest enough with yourself to know that it's never fully landed, right? That the back exit is always visible. That part of you is always doing the math on what it would cost if this fell apart. That is not intimacy, you guys. That is managed proximity. And the person on the other side of it feels the difference, even if they don't even know what to call that at this point. This issue shows up in self-trust specifically, and this is the one that does not get enough conversation, okay? You have been breaking promises to yourself repeatedly. You said you would do the thing and you did not do the thing. You said you would stop the behavior and you returned to it. You said this time was different and it was not different. And your brain, the extraordinarily faithful data recording machine that it is, that fucking beast, we love that bitch, okay? Noted every single one of these broken promises. And then it built a self concept that includes the specific conclusion. I cannot fully trust myself to follow through. That means every new commitment is made against the backdrop of that record. And the brain, predicting based on the past, hedges the commitment before it begins. That's why you feel like it's part of your identity. I know that I can't do this. I'm not going to show up for this. That's a self concept. Okay. Self trust has to be rebuilt the same way every other trust is built, through small kept promises, through the micro commitment honored, through showing your nervous system one specific follow through at a time, that you are someone whose word means something, not the grand gesture. Okay. The Brandon Lynette recording a podcast at 10 fucking 40 at night. Okay. Because I want to show up, because I said this podcast means something to me, that I'm willing to do what it takes to produce the show, no matter what happens with life, how life gets in the way. I'm here. That one little follow through today, when who's going to call me tomorrow, right? Who's going to call me tomorrow? Usually I miss a couple episodes before anybody messages me. Who's going to call me tomorrow and be like, bitch, where was your show today? Nobody. So this is between me and me. That's the podcasting life, right? It's between me and me. I kept my word. This matters to me. I put it on my planner. I'm trying something new this week. I could do this. That's it. So I honored that commitment. And here I am showing my own nervous system one specific follow through at a time, that I'm someone whose word means something. That's it. Dumb shit, you guys. The water you said you would drink. Maybe you said a gallon. Why don't you scale that back and just say, you know what, I'm gonna drink, 6 swigs of water every 30 minutes. I don't know. Make it simple, right? Maybe it was a walk you said you would take. There's days I really try to get 10K on this treadmill. And lately it has not been happening. I missed like 3 days back to back, and starting over really sucks. And I told myself, okay, let's not think about like I have to do 3 miles today. Let me just do a lap, because then I'm staying in that commitment, giving myself grace and space to kind of flex through there, to be pliable through this. Okay. Maybe it's the episode, you said you were going to record and you haven't because you're scared of what you're going to say. But I mean, just keep this very small, keep it very specific. It's just got to be kept. The brain needs the evidence, so give it the damn evidence, okay? And if your brain is like mine, and we just kind of feel everything more intense, the one where, those betrayals land 100 times harder, where broken trust echoes for fucking ever, where the record of disappointment is stored for someone less wired, rebuilding trust is slower, and it's more tender than the usual advice accounts for, right? The just take a risk and trust again. That advice is approximately as useful as telling someone with a broken leg to run it off. Literally. The leg needs specific rehab, specific, increasing load rehab, but so does trust. So start smaller than you think you need to, okay? Pick the safest possible context for the first new trust rep. The person who has maybe the largest track record of showing up for you, the commitment that is low enough stakes that the brain can practice the experience of keeping it without the full threat of activation. Build from there. Rep by rep, the neural pathway for trust is built the same way every other pathway is built, through that repeated experience, and it is survivable. That does not always cost what it cost before. Show it that the door can be open and something good can come through it, okay? And if you are in the middle of a trust rebuild right now, maybe with a person or with God or with yourself, why don't you just, in this moment, send this episode to the one person who's in it with you or who needs to start. They need the language for what they're in. And then make sure you subscribe and leave a written review if you haven't yet. It's literally 3 minutes, and that's the thing that gets this in front of the next person who really needs it the exact moment they need it. So do that really fast and then come back to me, okay? And this is the thing. Distrust is a downstream problem. The upstream problem is attachment to the outcome. Every trust wound, every single one, trace it back far enough, has at its root a specific outcome that was expected and didn't happen. Okay, right? The person who was supposed to show up and did not. The prayer that was supposed to be answered and was not. The decision that was supposed to be, supposed to work and it did not. The relationship that was supposed to be safe and it was not. The trust was not actually broken by the person or the situation or even God. The trust was broken by the gap between the expected outcome and the actual one. Our brain processes that data. Okay. Rebuilding trust does not require finding more trustworthy people or getting better outcomes. It requires detaching the trust from the outcome. Okay. It requires learning to trust the character and the process without needing to control where it's actually going to land. Where does it go? I know I talked about this a little bit a few episodes back. Trust without outcome attachment is the only kind of trust that does not eventually break because outcomes are not fully in anyone's control, not yours, not other people's, not even as hard as this is to really comprehend. God's, in the sense that he has given human beings free will, and that free will produces outcomes he permits without causing. The person who hurt you may have been doing their best with what they've had, or they may not have been. Either way, tying your ability to trust to their behavior gives them permanent custody of your openness. They own you, bitch. They get your power and they own you. That's it. They do not deserve that custody. They do not. They don't deserve that credit of you for the rest of your life. And frankly, neither do you. You deserve a trust that doesn't depend on other people getting it right every single time. Jesus trusted with full knowledge of how it would go. You know that. He came and he knew exactly what the hell was going to happen. He knew Peter would deny him. He knew Judas would betray him. He knew the disciples would run. He gave them the bread and the wine anyway. He loved them fully with the complete information about the cost of that love. That's not naive. That's the most radical, informed, eyes wide open trust in human history. Trust not in their behavior, but in the love that sent him in and the purpose that the whole thing was serving. That's the model. Not blind trust, not managed trust, informed, purposeful, outcome detached trust in the character of God and the people he has specifically placed in your path. Offered fully, without the back exit that you keep your hand on at all times. With the full knowledge that it might cost you something and the full conviction that the cost of withholding is going to be higher. Okay. So what do you have to do? First, you have to identify the specific trust you've been withholding. And then you're going to name what outcome you're protecting against. Not in general, but specific. Like, I am not fully trusting this person because I am protecting myself against them leaving. I am not fully trusting God because I am protecting against another outcome I don't understand. I am not trusting myself because I'm protecting against the evidence that I will not follow through. Name the specific fear underneath the withholding because you cannot release a grip you have not acknowledged. Then you're going to pick the biggest possible trust. Just kidding. You're going to pick the smallest possible trust rep available to you right now. The lowest stakes context. Okay. The safest person, the most doable commitment to yourself. And I want you to do the full version of it, not the hedged version, the full version. Let the door open all the way for something small. And then stay present for what happens. Let your brain collect the data. The rep does not have to be dramatic to be useful. Small and complete beats large and hedged every single time. Then you have to start rebuilding trust through micro commitments this week. Okay. Pick 3 things, tiny, specific, complete things that you will commit to honor. Not because they are important in themselves, because every kept promise to yourself is a deposit in the self-trust account that your brain has been overdrawn in. One commitment kept is one new data point. 3 a day is 21 a week. 21 data points of you keeping your word to yourself. Your brain notices that. Your nervous system starts updating the policy. The trust starts returning, not as a feeling first, okay? Evidence first, and then that bitch comes through as a feeling. Okay? Open the door and stop scanning for the exit. Okay? Open it. You don't even have to open it all the way and not recklessly. But keep your eyes open and your values intact and the full knowledge of what the last time cost you and the full decision that the cost of staying closed is higher. Babe, you are not too hurt to trust again. You know that. You're just a person whose brain learned a lesson from a real pain and built a policy around it. And the policy has done its job. That's it. It's time to update it. And not by pretending the pain wasn't real. We're not going to ignore that. It's but by deciding the pain does not get permanent custody of your openness, okay? Trust yourself. Start there. Keep the small promises you made this morning. then the next one, then the one after that, and build the record that your brain needs to update the self concept. And from that foundation, the foundation of a person who knows they can trust themselves, every other trust becomes possible. Jesus trusted the Father with the cross, with the betrayal, with the disciples who ran, with the outcomes he could not see from inside the suffering. The Father came through. And it's not in the way anyone expected, but in the way that changed everything. Your outcome is not the end of the story either. You have to trust the author. Again, if this episode met you somewhere that you felt deeply, please like the show, subscribe, and leave a written review. Head to brandonlynette.com, get on my list, watch this full episode on YouTube. Okay, make sure you get my patches. Peace patch, y'all. That I'm telling you, that is where that's how I'm here today. Check the show notes if you want to work with me. I do have a free podcast group on Facebook called the Audacity Lab. You guys can message me. Like I said, I answer all my own messages, and I'm happy to share that with you. But for now, I want you guys to open that door.